welcome back. We are here with Jacob Boes from Union Home Mortgage. Jacob, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
It's awesome to chat with you. It's
Yeah.
exciting. So you've been in the mortgage business for 8 years.
Yeah.
What inspired you to kind of dive into this?
It was something that I actually fell into. It was kind of
Okay.
funny. So I always tell people, people don't grow up wanting to be mortgage lenders,
Yeah.
right? And they think that somebody with a loan officer should have a badge, right? But that's really not what my job is. So we had a family friend who was in the business a really long time, was looking for somebody to partner with, somebody to kind of take under his wing. And my sister actually ran into him in the grocery store, handed a card. I made a call. We had an interview. At the time, I was looking to get some real world experience because I had a degree at the time and I was finishing up my bachelor's. But I knew that experience was really what people want, right, in the workplace. So I was just eager to get some experience, and it seemed like a good opportunity for me to kind of ease my way into the industry. And little did I know that he was actually trying to get out of the business and didn't want to leave his seat empty. So enter me. He poured in all of his knowledge over those 9 months that he was there, and then once he was gone, he was gone, and I've been on my own ever since.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And when buying a house, how important is credit?
Oh, it's vital. So there's what I call 4 C's when you want to buy a house. You have your credit, you have your capacity, you have your collateral, which is the house itself, right? And then you have the context of your situation. So in reality, credit, if your credit is bad, you have to get the credit fixed, right? There's no amount of down payment that can offset that. A cosigner really isn't going to help you out much. You really just got to get the credit kind of sorted and then come back. So credit is absolutely paramount. And not only the score itself, obviously that's important, but there's also waiting periods for like foreclosures and bankruptcies that you got to look out for too.
That's awesome. And when buying a house, what is the lowest amount down that someone can put?
Zero.
Really?
Zero. Yeah, you can put zero down. There's USDA is a common one that people use, and that's really designed for rural areas.
Okay.
So areas that are kind of underdeveloped that they want to try to spur more home ownership in, they'll offer that zero down option for them. What I like to tell people is that the more money that you have for a down payment, the better, because it gives you more options to different loan programs, but you don't need to necessarily have a down payment.
And for someone that is looking to buy their first house, what would one piece of advice be to them?
It's budgeting. It's budgeting, right? Especially if you're going from somewhere where you're living with family, you're at home, you don't have a house payment, right? Let alone, your insurance and your electric bill and your cable. So I'd really sit down, especially if you're living with somebody else or looking to buy a home with somebody else, sit down and create that budget, not only for your house payment, because that's one part of it, right? But think about your utility bills, think about, your streaming services, get all of that sorted, and make sure that you're in a good financial position so that, 6-8 months down the line, you're not scratching your head.
Yeah. And I feel like for like the FHA loan in specific, there's a lot of like misconceptions around it. Like, is an FHA loan only for first-time home buyers, or is it for anyone?
It's not. It's not for first-time buyers. So the parameters around it, you can't have 2 FHA loans at a time.
Okay.
So you can't buy an FHA loan and then get another FHA loan. You either have to sell that house that you have an FHA loan on, and then buy another one, and you can use another one using an FHA loan. But yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be for first-time buyers, and you can take advantage of that 3.5% down payment.
Yes, that is the best. And I mean, like house hacking and stuff like that.
Yeah, for multi-unit.
Yes.
Up to 4 units, 3.5% down. You can't beat it.
Yes.
As long as you're living in one of those units, you can rent out the other 3. Yeah.
I feel like that's a lot of that's kind of a gem that people don't know until they dive into the investing world. Like,
Very
wow,
true.
like I can like get up to 4 units and like put down 3.5%. And what is one thing that you wish your clients knew about the mortgage like lending process, or like just the home buying process in general?
The biggest thing is that it's not me, right? So if I'm telling somebody they have to have a certain credit score, or if I'm telling somebody that I need 2 months of bank statements, it's not because I really want to see them. It's because there's some investor in Washington that's really giving you the money for this house. We're just kind of the middleman in the equation. So there's the investor in Washington, there's the mortgage company, there's me, and then there's you, right?
Yeah.
And I'm kind of taking you through this process. But in reality, it's really coming from that investor. I tell people it's the golden rule. which is he who has the gold makes the rules, right?
Yes.
So since this investor has the gold, they're making the rules that they come down on us, and we relay them to you as the customer. So it's not really something, I mean, 95% of guidelines mortgage-wise, everything is so regulated, and you'll hear the same from me that you'll hear from, the lender across the street or down the road.
And what is one thing that you wish would change about that process?
Well, really, it's kind of in process. It'll take a long time, but really getting Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac out of conservatorship is a big deal to me. So after 2008, 2009 happened, basically the government stepped in, bailed out Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, who were private entities at the time, and took them under their wing. So now they're considered what we call government-sponsored enterprises, GSEs, and they've been under government control ever since. So the government's kind of had a say-so on the day-to-day operations of what Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac do. Those are the entities really that oversee conventional financing, right? So getting them out from that government hold is going to be good because it'll get private investors back into the marketplace. There'll be more flexibilities, and I think Fannie and Freddie are now in a financial space where they don't really need the government anymore.
Yeah, and could you share like a memorable experience you've had with a client with them buying like their first home or their dream home?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, there's so many. One that is near and dear to my heart is there was an older veteran who had never owned a home before, and buying a home for his family. His daughter was living with him at the time, and being able to use those VA benefits. Those VA buyers, again, that's another zero down program. If you're a veteran, like huge advantage to doing VA financing. But getting them into that home, I think they got a check at closing, just the way that the numbers worked out. They had spent some money, so we were able to like reimburse them back. That's so they got like keys and a check. Like, you can't beat that. That's amazing.
Yes. And what differentiates you versus another loan officer?
That's interesting. Yeah. So different companies, there are little variations with the different products. I was talking to somebody the other day. It's really about the horse and the jockey, right? Yeah. So do you have a company that's going to support you, that's going to bring you the products that you need to succeed in the marketplace as a loan officer, right? And then two is the loan officer himself. To me, it's about personality. It's about taking care of the customer. It's about doing what they need to, and it's about staying with them after the closing, right? So we like to say that we have customers for life, right? So if you close a loan with us, we're going to monitor your loan afterwards. We're going to send you the birthday messages and how are things going and how's the house. We try to keep in touch with everybody and really make it a community and give the people an experience and take something as regulated and as boring and as frustrating at times, right, as a mortgage, and try to make it as fun as possible.
Yeah. And I feel like bringing that human-esque, like, I guess, qualities into the mortgage lending space and making it, like you said, like less boring and more of like, hey, like we're gonna help you not only like buy the house but answer questions or like help you after.
Yes.
To kind of switch gears here,
Sure.
You also started 75 Hard.
Yeah.
What got you like starting that?
Really, my wife. To be honest with you, it was my wife. I had started working out maybe 4 or 5 days a week. And was doing that semi-regularly, was seeing some results, was enjoying it. I enjoy the gym. I was a high school athlete, so it was more so kind of getting back and getting active again. And she had mentioned it. I had heard of it. I had seen people do it, had never explored it myself. So it was pretty quick from there when she mentioned it, gave all the parameters around what it looked like and what we would have to do. And that's the rest is history. We're a week and a half, we're going on 2 weeks in now. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And what's kind of like one thing that like as you've been doing this that you like realized about it?
It's like we talked about before here. It's realizing that you need to prioritize yourself and you need to set aside the time to do so. It's amazing the things that you think are difficult when you start 75 Hard, right? And then you get maybe like a week past it and it's the easy, like the water intake, right? They want you to take in a gallon of water a day. It's like, oh my gosh, a gallon of water. How am I going to drink a gallon of water? And now it's like, I'm parched right now and I got 64 in. Yeah. So, it's kind of one of those just weird things where you definitely do get used to it over time.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think like it's just good, you know, like to kind of like test yourself like every once in a while. Like, hey,
Oh my
let's
gosh.
let's put myself to the test. Let's dive deeper and see if I can push myself past those limits.
Well, in 45-minute workouts, right? You think like, oh my gosh, 45 minutes, and you're watching your watch, and then there are other days where it's like, let's see what we can do here. You'd be
Yes.
surprised. You think like 2 workouts a day, you're going to be exhausted and sore, and you're not going to be able to move, and you're going to have to just like walk or be a zombie through these workouts. And really, like, you get into that swing of those 2 workouts, like you're ready to get after it when the time comes
Yeah.
around.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. 100%. I think, you know, it's so good to like train yourself. Like, hey, like let's make myself a priority. Let's do things that matter. Even though, you know, like work's important, family's important, let's take care of myself. And you also in the past have done scouting for baseball in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
How did you get into that?
So another just weird happenstance thing that seems to be a
Yeah.
topic or a
Yeah.
theme here for myself. But I had a friend who reached out to me. Um, I didn't know him at the time. Reached out via social media. Said, "Hey, I know you've done some blog writing and some different things. He saw some of my work, saw some of my social media. It was like, I think you might be good in this whole scouting thing. Are you interested? I have some experience. I can kind of take you under my wing, show you what I know." And I just took him up on it. And it was always an area that kind of interested me. But, with the travel that comes in with actual scouting and some of the demands, and it doesn't pay the best either. So it was kind of a nice way to kind of, dabble into the scouting world. And that's exactly what happened. We had, several hour-long phone calls about physical descriptions and body types and what to look for and going to games and why that's so important versus just watching on TV and all of the little intricacies that comes with evaluation and scouting.
And with baseball scouting, like what is like the hardest thing about it?
Just knowing ahead of time, right? So if you get to say like Double A or Triple A in the minor leagues, you kind of know who a guy is for the most part. You don't see a lot of radical changes within a profile, right? But when you're talking about guys that are in low A, that are maybe 16, 17 years old, to project that body and that
Yeah.
makeup, and then, a lot of times they have to change positions maybe because they fill out to a certain point where they're not able to really handle a certain position. So you got to really, it's the projection side of things when you get to those younger age groups because they're kids, right?
Yeah.
They're not even adults yet legally. And projecting what they're going to be like 23, 24, 25, that's tough.
That's very interesting. And
Yeah.
you also are a father. How did becoming a father change your perspective on life?
Ooh, every way possible, right? It kind of gives you a perspective to see like what matters and what doesn't matter. I think that's the biggest thing is like the things that don't actually matter that you thought mattered. And it shifts your priorities, I think.
Yeah.
I think it makes you more efficient. You have to be more efficient with your time. It teaches patience, right? Being patient with them and being able to teach them and talk and honestly, like it helps with a job like this because that education piece is so important, right? And a lot of people need to be talked to, like their
100%.
basic stuff. Back up several steps. I think because we do it every day, sometimes we get into the monotony of we just assume everybody knows things, and so it's definitely helped from that perspective as well.
Yeah. And I think, you know, like you're like teaching like a mini you. I
Yeah,
mean, and I think that's the wild part about it is like, wow, like this is half me.
yeah.
I mean, and I need to teach it. Like I'm not not only like myself to work out and like eat healthy, but now I have to manage this like mini me.
Well, and it gives perspective in the sense that like you don't realize the influence that you have, right? And it could be something as silly as you do a certain thing or you hold your body a certain way or you throw something and next thing you know they're doing the same exact thing that you did and it wasn't like you really wanted them to do that but they just saw you do it so now you do it, right?
Yes.
So it's that whole thing of like they are watching everything and you really do have an influence over them.
Yeah. And I have two more questions.
Sure.
If you could have dinner with two people, one person from the past and one person from the present, who would it be and why?
So like dead and alive we're
Yes.
talking.
Yes.
um from the past. I haven't given a ton of thought to this, and you think of, I'm thinking of like past presidents would be very
Yeah.
interesting. Abraham Lincoln comes to mind. I think that would be a fascinating conversation. Just getting his thoughts on, especially if I can time travel, right? Because I
Yeah.
could give him where the world is at today and get his perspective. I think would be super super fascinating. So Abe Lincoln,
Okay.
as strange as that sounds, that would be very very fun for me to talk to him. And then present, if I could have anybody have dinner with them, anybody, probably Jeff Bezos.
Interesting. Why?
Probably. I think that running a ship like Amazon is just so fascinating, and he lives like a prototypical billionaire with his huge yachts. And
Yes.
I know people probably feel a certain way about that, but I think it's fun. He obviously has taken so many risks along the way. He probably has stories, and to me, when you're doing hard things and when you're making difficult decisions and you're really testing yourself, whether it be in business or in life or whatever, to me that just it really tests you and it gives you those memories to look back on. So I'm sure somebody with that sort of not really work ethic, but somebody with those types of connections that has
Yeah.
to make those types of decisions, the stories, right?
Yeah.
It's all about the stories, and I think there would be some fascinating stories that would come out of that.
I
I'm
like.
sure I could think of some better ones if you gave me
Yes.
time, but those are the two that are off the top of the dome.
Every guest has been like, "Oh my gosh, I have no clue." So they're
Yeah,
like, "Oh, I've never thought about this."
I haven't. No.
Yeah. So, and I have one more question.
Okay.
Why did you decide to partner with us and offer the discount?
Yeah, so this really goes back kind of an interesting story a few years ago to Carl White gave a presentation about he's with Mortgage Marketing Animals, and it's just everything about the business and how to grow and how to market yourself and a ton of little tidbits. But one of the things you probably go to conferences and you try to get like little nuggets,
Yeah.
right? And one of the little nuggets that stuck with me from him was this concept of would you rather have a piece of a watermelon or an entire grape?
I like that.
And I was like, that makes sense. It really does make sense. So that's really the principle behind it is being willing to take a slice of a watermelon over an entire grape.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I like that. Well, how can people find you?
Yeah.
And what is one thing that you would say to people?
So people can find me on social, Instagram, jboes4. That's Boes is my last name. Jacob Boes UHM on Facebook as well. And what was the second part of your question? I missed it.
What is one thing that you would say to people?
Oh, just if you're looking to apply for a mortgage, we're flexible. We try to meet people where they're at. So if you want to apply online, there's several people that I meet at the closing table for the first time,
Wow.
which is cool. That we don't have to actually sit down and bore you with all the paperwork that comes with buying a house. Or if you want that experience and you want to come into this office and you want to sit through every milestone and you want to work through and make sure you're understanding every single detail that comes with it, we'll meet you there too.
I like that. Well, Jacob, thank you so much for letting me do this, and I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate
Thank
you
you.
too.